Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Governor. Professor Keenan, you teach at Tulane?
Yes, sir, I do. I have that privilege.
And you have your own website, KeenanClimate.com, is that right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you describe yourself on your website as a globally recognized thought leader. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you give paid speeches, do you?
On occasion, I do.
You have your own agent, I believe, according to your website, Lee Bureau.
This is correct.
And how much do you charge per speech?
It varies depending on the audience, the amount of preparation work that goes, and the amount of follow-through. Usually,
The last paid speech you gave, how much did you receive?
I'm happy to follow up on it.
You don't remember?
I do not.
Do you give that money to Tulane?
I do not.
You keep it?
Yes, this is outside of my capacity as a professor.
Right.
As is
Now,
standard course.
you recently sent a letter you recently joined a lot of other academics. You signed a letter demanding that elite institutions and universities stop accepting money from fossil fuel companies. Is that correct?
This is correct.
You consider Tulane an elite university?
I would like to think that we have a high standard of excellence in our education and our research.
Okay. Well, the Murphy family of Murphy Oil and the Deming family of Murphy Oil have recently given Tulane $25 million. Have you called on Tulane to give that money back?
Well, it's not, they didn't give that money to my unit or the department or school that I work in.
Have you called on Tulane to give that money back, or you think that's okay for them to keep it?
It's their prerogative, not mine.
Okay. Yet you just signed a letter saying that all elite universities should refuse fossil fuel money. Did you put a footnote in there and say, except my own?
Well, what I'd like to say, Senator, is that I believe it raises a conflict of interest for those that research climate change that are supported by the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah, but then why don't you ask Tulane to give the $25 million back?
Well, I think in the context, if that money were to be used to support climate research, information, disinformation, or whatever it may be, then that may be an appropriate conflict of interest. But I think in the context of which
You don't see the hypocrisy here?
It is a hypocrisy in those that may read and interpret it as such.
Maybe it's like Washington. If there weren't double standards, there wouldn't be standards at all. Let me ask you this. You also participated in another article here criticizing Houston for building new buildings and McMansions. And you said, I'm going to read your quote. I don't want to misquote you, Professor. That means we have to change our consumer preferences. You could have a super efficient, energy efficient mega mansion in Houston or the suburbs, but it's still a mansion. You're still over-consuming space. Did you say that?
Yes, sir. That's based on work as a member of the IPCC. Our research suggested that reducing our footprint in terms of total spatial footprint would have significant impacts on the decarbonization of the built environment.
And so you're saying that people should live in smaller houses because larger houses contribute to CO2 emissions?
100%, Senator.
Okay. Well, recently, Tulane finished the Commons. It was 77,000 square feet, $55 million. Recently, Tulane finished the Gold Ring Woldenberg Business Complex, $35 million to complete, 92,000 square feet. Boy, that's a McMansion. Musafir Hall, 23,000 square feet. Paul Hall, 36,000 square feet. Richardson Hall, 50,000 square feet. Housing redevelopment phase 1, 230,000 square feet at Tulane. Have you called upon Tulane to stop these buildings?
Sir, the habitable space within those units are roughly the size of the conference room back there and are indeed quite small.
But they contribute to, Does,
Everything that we do,
does
sir.
the
contributes-
Commons contribute more to climate change than a McMansion in Houston? You were pretty
In a fiery Senate hearing, Senator John Kennedy once again showed his signature style, mixing sharp questions with a dose of humor and blunt criticism. This time, his exchange with a Tulane professor over fossil fuel money and climate hypocrisy sparked headlines. But that wasn't all. Kennedy also pressed Louisiana's governor on energy revenues and the fairness of federal funding. Let's break down what really happened in this tense and fascinating session. The hearing opened with Senator Kennedy questioning Professor Jesse Keenan of Tulane University. Kennedy wasted no time pointing out the professor's high-profile reputation, speaking fees, and website that calls him a globally recognized thought leader. From there, Kennedy honed in on one issue: hypocrisy. The professor had signed a letter urging elite universities to reject fossil fuel donations. Yet Tulane, Kennedy noted, had accepted $25 million from families connected to Murphy Oil. The senator pushed hard, asking if Keenan had called on Tulane to give the money back. Keenan insisted it wasn't his prerogative. Kennedy, however, wasn't buying it, bluntly accusing the professor of double standards. The clash didn't stop there. Kennedy shifted to another quote from Keenan, where the professor criticized large suburban mansions in Houston as symbols of overconsumption and carbon emissions. Kennedy contrasted that with Tulane's massive new construction projects, some spanning over 200,000 square feet. Isn't that hypocrisy? Kennedy pressed. Keenan stood his ground, arguing that student housing and educational facilities aren't the same as luxury homes. Still, Kennedy doubled down, suggesting the professor was quick to condemn ordinary people while excusing his own institution. Next, Governor John Bel Edwards stepped into the spotlight. Kennedy immediately turned the conversation toward revenue sharing from offshore energy production. Louisiana, he argued, gets only 37.5% of oil and gas royalties, far less than states like New Mexico or
climate change than a McMansion in Houston. You were pretty quick to criticize the people of Houston for wanting to build, you thought, McMansions. But you don't criticize your own university?
I don't find that to be equivocal comparison between space meant for students who must reside at a university.
You don't see
and
the
those that-
hypocrisy in that?
It is your finding and interpretation, sir.
But you don't see the irony of the hypocrisy?
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Okay. I kind of gathered that would be your answer. Governor, good to see you. You live in a big house, don't you?
Currently, I do, yes.
How big is the governor's mansion?
I don't know the square footage, but it's large, and it's 60 years old this year. You ought to come by and
I
see
need to get
the
by.
work.
Well, the professor from Tulane doesn't like that. Let me ask you, do you think it's fair? Look, John Bell, we get 37.5% of offshore oil royalties under Go Mesa. New Mexico gets 50% share from the federal government, for God's sakes. Wyoming gets 50%. North Dakota gets 50%. We get 37.5%, and we got to share it with 4 other states.
And it's capped at $375 million that we get to share no matter.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Now, that just sucks.
I don't think it's fair.
funding. The senator and governor stood united in calling for fairness. This hearing was more than just political theater. It was a window into how senators like John Kennedy use both pressure and persuasion to make their case. Whether challenging climate academics or fighting for Louisiana's energy revenues, Kennedy left his mark in a way only he can. The debate over hypocrisy, fairness, and the future of energy funding is far from over. But one thing's certain, Senator Kennedy won't be stepping away from the fight anytime soon. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscriber button for more political showdown.